What is up, Jamily? This is JamiroFan 2000 here, but yet another episode of JamiroFan Talks About. This, of course, has been my recurring series here on my channel where I look at the past, present, and future of JamiroQuai and his over 29 years of music making. First off, let me preface this episode by saying Happy New Year, everybody. This is the first content I've started to record for 2021, so I'm pretty excited to see what happens with JamiroQuai and their band members throughout this upcoming calendar year. So with that out of the way, this is going to be kind of a semi-serious episode of JamiroFan Talks About. All the members of the Jamily who live here in the United States have seen the first week of January 2021 was supposed to be, going to be a brand new year, a brand new start, but some very, very bad circumstances happened, especially on January 7th. For those who don't know, a lot of things have been polarized here in the United States, at least on a geopolitical sense. A lot of people have been living vicariously through the internet, a lot like I have, not as hardcore as those people have. But some very bad stuff happened up in D.C., Washington, D.C., this nation's capital, at the Capitol building, where both houses of Congress are housed, the House of Representatives and the Senate. There was a rally that happened up in D.C. That was done by our current president, who will rename nameless after what he did. But basically, it was a rally about all of his supporters. You want to call them supporters or a base, call them whatever you want. To me, they're not supporters. They're not a base. They're just a bunch of disillusioned, disinformed people who just go from happening and happening when it concerns this current president. But we all know that he's out of office in about 2 weeks' time, and we have a brand new president, Joseph R. Biden, and Kamala Harris is our country's first female vice president, but I digress. He held a rally where he basically said, he did all of his usual spiel, fake news and all the other stuff that has become a misnomer, at least recently, for but behaviors of a person in position of power that shouldn't be doing that. Well, he basically said it was about, I'd say there were a few tens of thousands of protesters there. It was a march to basically protest the fact that they don't believe that a fair and elected process exists in America, that in their deluded minds that following the examples of a person forcing on intimidation, division, and diatribic type of vernacular is basically how we have a civil discourse in a democracy, when in actuality it isn't. Well, basically, Donald Trump the president said that that they should go to the Capitol and see some senators, some of which they don't like. And some of those, a great majority of those people that were there for that rally to basically, the protesting of another person winning a fair and equal election, they proceeded to go to the actual Capitol building, break past the security barriers, and break into the houses of Congress. Like it's something out of the first few minutes of V for Vendetta or something. These protesters spilled into the Capitol building, past the behest of our brave ladies and women of the police department and the Capitol Police, and proceeded to insurgentize both houses of Congress, where the scary irony was at the time that this mob, and you can call them a mob, rushed the Capitol building. Both houses of Congress were basically in joint session to confirm the electoral votes from all the U.S. states from the past 2020 election to confirm that Joseph Biden was our next president. Well, this whole thing, all these crazy people that were part of this mob, there just so happened to be one person, a guy who went by the name of the QAnon Shaman, who just so happened to be at that rally and just so happened to go in with that mob into the Capitol building, threaten the lives of our elected officials, who looked like the Buffalo Man of JamiroQuai. Now, I awoke that morning totally not knowing about this and informing myself online of what the hell was happening in D.C. And then I saw hashtag JamiroQuai trending. It was one of the highest trending terms of that day, and it was all simply precipitated by this one individual who had Buffalo Man horns, who had fur, and looked nothing like the Buffalo Man, who was just one of myriad of characters that was part of this mob at the Capitol building, who just so happened to catch fire on a viralness of the internet. And some people, some advantageous people, decided to take that and run with it, and put a JamiroQuai reference to that, or a relation to this. Now, I took extreme exception to that, given the circumstances of what happened in America, given how everything is so highly polarized, given that it seems like our civil liberties in the United States, or at least in our democracy, seem to be under onslaught of the emotional predeterminations of the people that you talk to and how everything is so polarizingly charged, how all this crazy stuff is happening, pandemics, police brutality, all this ungodly stuff is happening. We think it's all behind us. We enter a new year, and then this happens. That was completely orchestrated by our current president. Even though he has done this multiple times, it's a systemic thing he's done his whole life as president. And then they went in there. Now, I would have no problem with this if nobody died at this rally and in this inevitable insurrection at the Capitol. Okay, if nobody died and people got arrested and they were charged with sedition, so be it. But if people didn't die at this, if people didn't die at this whole event, then I would have no problem with people memeing the hell out of this, using the Buffalo guy from the mob as a conduit for, a bit of social media viral adulation. I would have no problem with that. But 5 people have died. 5 people died at this event, at this mob rush, this mini insurrection at the Capitol. And so I took extreme personal offense at this. And luckily, a lot of people. JamiroQuai was up there. It was like number 3 on the viral activity list on Twitter about this. The next day, JK of JamiroQuai actually, usually around this time of year, JK does put out a message on the official JamiroQuai Instagram account saying Happy New Year and giving us an update how he's doing. He did put out a tweet the day that happened and said to that gentleman in reference, nice hat, but not my kind of crowd. And then in his video, his subsequent video, he called them freaks, and that's simply what they are. They are freaks. These are a small vein of American society who've decided to make themselves emotionally vulnerable and are trying to find a happening in their life. They're trying to find a happening or something crazy or something gobbledygookish to go and affiliate with themselves with because they can't find anything else better to do with their time. And like I said, I wanted to record a JamiroFan Talks About to basically flesh out this whole thing because this was very disturbing. This is a very disturbing aberration in our democracy. Now, this is not saying there haven't been aberrations in the last 4 years. The last 4 years have been very, very hard. Very, very, very hard for a lot of us Americans. And not just the rich and affluent, but the middle class, who I'm a part of. The middle class in America has been squeezed and squeezed and squeezed. And I don't mean to make a political statement, but, it really hurts me to see humanity just on display like this sometimes, and when JamiroQuai becomes an irrevocable relation with some craziness like this, even if it's in if it's in a meme sense or in a social media sense, I take that extremely personally. And I went online and I left like a 3-page dissertation about why this is wrong, and this JamiroQuai has no endorsement, no affiliation with this, and for them to be dragged on the bus like this by a bunch of people on social media just because it was the new hotness online is very, very irresponsible, And then there eventually was a piece of artwork with somebody who did a drawing of Virtual Insanity JK punching out this individual, but the good news is, the silver lining out of this whole thing is that the people who did this, the mob who did this, who invaded the Houses of Congress, not even in the capacity of a tourist or anything, they are all being prosecuted, and they're all being prosecuted for sedition. And the United States Capitol building or any government building has not had a case of sedition in nearly 100 years. Nearly 100 years. And this was a tipping point. This was a bit of a tipping point for all the crazy rhetoric, all the misinformation, all the crazy sideshow freaking theatrics that our government has gone through because of this current president, who's only going to be around for another week and a half. And then we don't have to see him anymore. Then we don't have to mention him anymore. And social media has followed in lockstep with common sense, blocking this man on all the major social media platforms. And all the people that gadflied to it, using sites online to coordinate this thing. So good things are happening. And that QAnon individual, that JamiroQuai, that Buffalo man, he's getting charged with sedition too. So they're all going to see jail time for doing this. And they know better. But, you don't know better when your brain is purposely diluted. When you decide to stagnate this brain just because, somebody comes along and says a bunch of vitriol and says a bunch of unsavory things, and I realize that we Americans do have a weakness for things that are negative. We are interested in things that are negative, in things that are bad, and things that put down a certain class of people or a certain orientation, all kinds of stuff. When you have a leader in a country of the world's largest democracy talking in this with this non-hindsighted inflammatory manner, then people are going to come to it. And it has been a bit of a, I don't want to say that I don't want to see, but it's been a mess, an absolute mess trying to swim through all this and trying to get through the last 4 years of this. Not just 2020. Yes, 2020 was a very bad year. But for us in the middle class here in America, dealing with all this crazy, just premeditated bullshit, it's just, it was just too much. But, like I said, things will hopefully get better. We went through one of the most hellish years in human history last year, and even if you want to extend it, 4 years. But hopefully things will get better, and I'm optimistic, and you should stay optimistic. This whole thing that happened in DC, coupled with the JamiroQuai viral thing, was just, it kind of overwhelmed me. I just couldn't take it, and I like to be honest, and I like to display my emotions and be completely honest with people when I see stuff that really disturbs me. And what I saw last week incredibly disturbed me and disturbed a lot of people in the country. And a lot of us have seen these disturbing things happening and have not said anything, have totally ignored them, and just decided to do some type of normalization of it. We should not normalize bad behavior. We should not normalize diatribic behavior. We should not normalize anything that is against the public discourse that hurts people and hurts people all across the country, with reverberations that the person who's conduing it doesn't realize. And that's pretty much our last president in a nutshell. He doesn't know what happens. He says and says and says and says, but doesn't know the pain that it causes, unless he felt the pain, which he didn't. So that's all I wanted to say about this. But I didn't want to bring this down with any political rhetoric or diatribe or anything. I just, it's people see these disturbing things, and we have to talk about it. We have to talk about our problems, because I know we don't like to talk about our problems, even with friends or relations or significant others, or even with therapists. Talking to each other is a form of very strong therapy, and we have to talk about this, and talk about any weird stuff in our lives that are really hurting us emotionally or mentally, because our mental health is very, very important. We've got to keep it pristine, because if we don't keep this brain pristine, then the people who did that mob, the people who did that interaction, we will turn into those people, and we don't need that. We don't need more regressions of bad human behavior. But anyway, like I said, that's this JamiroFan Talks About. I just had to address this. I really did, because it was just it was so stressful, and so, just to see, my favorite band being pulled through the mud by this viral meme mud made me very angry. And I don't usually share my mean side, but when I'm provoked, you get a response. And I want to thank you, everybody on social media, especially the members of the Jamily, from Facebook to the JamiroQuai subreddit, who pretty much supported my comments in relation to the dual story of craziness. It's good to know that people in the world also have the kind of same rational mind as me, and don't decide to gadfly to this kind of bad behavior or this kind of happening or whatever the hell it is. Because, like I said, this is an aberration. This is not something that's currently a systemic thing in America, but there is a lot of misinformation. That is a fact, and hopefully that will be fixed very, very soon, either by social platforms or by major congressional legislation to regulate either hate speech or however you want to define this mutation of bad human behavior. Hopefully it will be addressed very soon. But as always, thank you for watching this episode of JamiroFan Talks About. I hope you found some solace in it. I hope you got through last week just like me, and looking very optimistic to a much brighter 2021. I am totally optimistic about that. But as always, I will be trying to put more content here up on the JamiroFan 2000 YouTube channel when I can. But as always, this is JamiroFan 2000, and I'll see you really soon with more JamiroQuai related videos here on the JamiroFan 2000 YouTube channel. Bye-bye, everybody. Stay safe. Happy New Year, and take care.